Hello, friends. What's going on? I'm super excited to see everybody here. It looks like we have some people coming in. I am overjoyed because there are, in registration, we had 230 coaches from 12 different countries sign up to hang out with us on a random Sunday in June where we are missing our athletes, we are missing our responsibilities and the influence that we have on everybody. And I could not be more thrilled to be spending my Sunday afternoon here in Dallas, Texas with you. So before we get going, I'd love to know where you are from. I see Michelle is in North Carolina. Hello. Mark Hesse, my number one fan, is in the house. Love you, man. Let's see. Freddie from Colombia. I was just in Colombia. Where's my, I was just drinking espresso out of a mug I just got from Medellin when I was there from when I turned 40, February 12th. It was awesome. Let's see what else we got here. I've got Kip. Kip is down the street from me and I owe you an assessment. I need to finish that. So I have not forgotten about you. Let's see. Virginia Beach, fantastic. Tim in Chicago. I was just there with one of my teams a couple months ago before everything shut down. So that was a bummer, but it was cold. 6 inches on Halloween. I don't know how you do it. Let's see what else we got here. From Trinidad, Gerald, fantastic. Welcome. Nova Scotia. Hello, Jennifer. Nice to see you. Okay, so there you go. Okay, I can read now. Vancouver. Hey, Anthony. Let's see. Where else? We got somebody, Rosario. Nice to see you from Argentina. Minneapolis. Hey, Chad. Oh, Chad. The first guy who ever gave me a leadership book, I was in 8th grade. He's moving to Minneapolis tomorrow. He's a baseball coach and he's retiring from coaching. I could not be more excited from him. So I will be in Minneapolis to visit him. So hopefully maybe we can connect as well. Let's see. Justin Russ. Dang, Justin Russ. IMG alumni. Fantastic. Let's see. Nope, Kip, didn't forget about you. Absolutely not. Let's see. Cyprian. I hope I said your name right. It's an awesome name. From Hamilton. Awesome. Patrick. Hello from Switzerland. I was just in Bern. If you've never been to the Einstein Museum in Bern, Switzerland, it's one of the most fantastic museums I've ever been to. I highly, highly recommend it. Let's see. Patrick from Ireland. Never been to Ireland. Gosh, man, I need to go to Ireland. Okay, let's see. Ben, nice to see you from Colombia. Well, I think we should get started. I mean, I'm always teaching how we should be on time. We shouldn't be late because then I'm not going to run a lap like the kids or, whatever it is. Let's see. From Mexico City. Hey, Julio. Nice to see you. Let's get started. So hopefully you have the handout that I made up and we can follow through. Today, let me just give you an idea of what we're going to be doing before I introduce myself to those of you who I've never seen before. Today is only going to be about 30 minutes. It's not going to be a long time. The whole point of me doing this was to give you time to kind of reflect on the kind of coach that you want to be when you return, the kind of organization that you want your kids to return to. And so the things that I'm going to be sharing with you, I don't want you to put a whole lot of thought into it right now. And that sounds kind of weird. But what I mean is when I ask you the question, first thing you think of, put it down, even if it doesn't really make sense right now. Because I find that when I've been doing this with different staffs throughout the country, that it leads to better ideas. So don't censor yourself right now. I'm not going to ask you to share in front of the class. I'm just going to throw some stuff at you. So let's see. We've got how many people? Fantastic. Okay. Well, let's get started. So hopefully you have your handouts. I have my handouts right here, and let's just get going right now. So my name is James Leith. If you've never been to one of these webinars, I throw out a lot of information and I like to tell stories. And so I'm here to inspire you, to motivate you, to hopefully educate you to be a better coach. And I got my master's degree in performance psychology. It's my passion to think about how I can help people become better at what they do and why they do what they do. So I read a ton, and I'm always trying to hang out with people who are much smarter than me. One of my life philosophies is to be the dumbest guy in the room. And that's just, I try to do that all the time, because if I'm the smartest guy, I'm in the wrong room. I don't want to be the smartest guy. I want to be the dumbest guy. So that way I always got something to learn from everybody. So that way I can steal it and I can come and share it with you. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's see. I was at IMG Academy for a while. My buddy Justin Russ is on the call right now. And, him and I were there, and I was the head of leadership development there. And I had this amazing opportunity to spend time with some of the best athletes and the best coaches in the world, learning about leadership development, mental resiliency, strength and conditioning, and nutrition. I mean, it was just a blast. And so now I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I'm running this company called Unleash the Athlete that's gone 100% digital because all the sports have shut down, but we're getting back to it. So let's talk about rebuilding culture. And the reason I called it that is because for the last 3 to 5 months, we haven't been able to be around our kids. And imagine what they've gone through. If a senior graduated in 2020, that means when they were in kindergarten, they experienced 9/11. So their education is packed between two really big events in, at least in American history. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to work my tail off all the way through grade school, middle school, high school, and then get to high school my senior year and it's canceled. Like, I can't even imagine that. I also can't imagine what it's like to take 5 months off and not be around my classmates, not be around my coaches. You have the most influence on kids. You have more influence than you could possibly imagine. I'm going to share some stories in a minute on just how influential you are. But I'm so honored that on 5 o'clock Central Standard Time on a Sunday in June, you've spent it with me. That shows that you care about these kids. And these kids need you so badly right now. With everything that's going on right now and the changes that are happening amongst us, we are the storytellers. We are the purveyors of meaning, because these kids, the first thing they're going to ask us is, what does all this stuff mean? How should I act? This person said this person is saying this, I read this, I saw this, and they're going to come to you and they're going to ask you, because you're not just an encyclopedia for skills. You're not an encyclopedia for what my buddy John calls cone porn. Like, it's just cones all over the place and we're doing different drills and stuff. Like, that's not your number one job. Your number one job is to create better adults for the future. That's it. That's what we're doing here. And so thank you for spending time with me. Let's get on this presentation. So I will share my screen and press play. Bam. Okay. So hopefully you are ready, because I got a lot that I want to share with you. And where I want to start is this idea of this circle of influence. Now, it's in your notes, and so you don't have to write this down, but if you don't have the notes, you're definitely going to want to write all this down. But what I want to share with you is that there's a way for you to increase your influence. There's a way for you to increase your influence and to make a bigger difference in the lives of your athletes. And when it comes to influence, when it comes to what they're going to remember about you, you have no idea what they're going to remember. And my definition of leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. I stole that from John Maxwell. He's the first leadership book that I ever read. And it's one of the books that I recommend, 21 Laws of Leadership. I highly recommend it. But this never came more to life for me than this story that I like to tell about this kid named Matty, who called me on his 21st birthday. And he was my 6th grade football player. Like, he was on my team when I was his coach, and when he's in 6th grade, now he's 21. And he gives me a call, and I remember answering the phone, and I didn't recognize his voice at all, because he obviously had gotten a lot deeper. And he was like, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm good, man. Like, what's going on in your world?" And he was telling me how he's a wrestler and how he has all these things going on, and that his professor challenged him to reach out to a coach or somebody from his past that had a positive influence on him. So I was honored. Like getting those kind of calls, just it blows me away to get those kind of calls. And I said, well, man, that's cool. Like, what do you want to talk about? He was actually, I have 2 questions for you. I said, okay. And I thought he was going to ask me about like when he fumbled on the goal line during the championship game, or all the games that we won, or like all that. None of that. He goes, Coach, do you still open up the door for Mrs. Coach Leith? And it took me aback a bit. I was like, what? Like, that's what? I didn't even know that he knew that. And I said, yeah, I always open up the door for, like, of course. And he says, yeah, I saw you do that. I remember being at practice, and after practice, you would go and you'd open up the door for her and she'd get in, and then you'd go around and you'd get in. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. I still do that. He goes, Coach, I've been doing that. And my mom loves it. My girlfriend loves it. And I learned that from you. And I said, wow. Like, okay. Like, I didn't even think that was something that he would pick up, but we can't control what it is that the kids see us do. They're always watching us. And the second thing was that he goes, do you still teach the handshake on the first day of practice? And that kind of blew me away too, because I had actually started doing that with his team like 10, 15 years ago. And I would line up all the kids and I would teach them how to shake hands. I don't know what that's going to mean for post-pandemic and teaching that. I do have some theories on the next, like the idea that, we're not going to be shaking hands as much, but our attention and our eye contact, that's going to be the way that we can kind of lift ourselves above the normal people, because just, instead of like you're on the phone and you're like, oh yeah, hey, what's going on? Oh, like this. Eye contact, right? Like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about how we are in an attention economy. But anyways, I said, yeah, I do that. And he goes, well, I'm a wrestler. And, and he was being modest. He was one of the best wrestlers in the country. He was the best one at his school in his weight class. And he was like playing for the championship in a couple of weeks, during that call. And he goes, well, like sometimes I'll go in and I'll shake their hand and they'll give me like the dead fish, Coach, or they'll give me like the princess, and I grab their wrists and I go, shake it like you mean it. And he goes, it's psychological warfare. He's like, I beat them before we even get started. I thought, that's fantastic. And he didn't want to talk about the sport. He didn't want to talk about the games and all the things that at the time I thought was important. But what we fail to remember sometimes is what it's like to be a kid. It's one of the reasons why I love Mr. Rogers so much. He never forgot what it was like to see the world through the eyes of children. And when we are working with children, not many adults, when we're working with children, we have to remember that they don't see the world the way I do and the way that you do. They see it the way they see it. And they've been through things that we'll have never gone through. We all went through this pandemic, but they went through the pandemic as a 12-year-old, as a 14-year-old, as a 19-year-old. And so they experienced it differently than we did. And so a great coach is going to remember that it's not about treating them like adults, mini adults. It's about treating them like kids. Well, the influence that you have over the athlete is determined by a relationship, because Maddie wouldn't have remembered that stuff if he didn't respect me, if he didn't appreciate the things that I did for him as his coach. And I remember this one time I was at IMG Academy and I saw this soccer player was practicing after practice, and she was one of my favorites. Like, you're not supposed to have favorites. We all have favorites. Right? So let's just move on. And she kicked the ball and she missed the net by like 10 feet. And I remember just like watching her do that. And then I just yelled I was like, Tate, you're terrible. And she like whipped her hair around, like ready to just unleash something on whoever was like basically just giving her a hard time. And she saw it was me. And she smiled and she kind of laughed. And I was like, all right, let's see it again. She grabbed the ball and then she just kicked it like just a strike in the top left-hand corner. Now, I knew that I had, like Tate and I had an understanding because she had been in my class. She had laughed. She knew that I wanted the best for her. And I was just, teasing her in a way that was appropriate. I wasn't saying anything mean. I was just kind of joking around with her, but I knew that that was appropriate. There are other athletes that I've worked with that I would never say that to because they just don't joke around that way. Sometimes as coaches, we feel like we can be sarcastic or condescending, and the kid doesn't really understand what those mean. So if you're trying to be sarcastic with a 10-year-old, they may just internalize that as you being mean. You can be sarcastic with an 18-year-old and they know exactly what you're talking about and it's funny. So you need to be intentional about how you speak to your athletes because it's based on the relationship. Now, this circle of influence is like an hour-long presentation, and I'm really just giving you the cliff notes because I want to get to the good stuff. So now your relationship is based on trust. Your relationship is based on trust. And they're asking, can I trust you? And there was this one time where I went, one of the first jobs I ever got outside of coaching to help coaches be better was over a decade ago, where this school invited me, this head coach invited me to come to the practice and figure out why the kids keep quitting. Like, why do they keep quitting? So I get to this Central Coast school in California, and I'm on the football field, and I can see the beach. Like, I can see it. So I'm thinking that's probably one of the reasons why you can't keep the kids, but I was wrong. That wasn't why. Within about 5 minutes, an athlete came over to this football coach and said, "Coach, my neck hurts." And he was holding his neck. And this coach looked at him and said, yeah, my neck hurts too. And I just remember looking at this coach like, what are you doing? Why would you talk to that kid like that? He's telling you that he's hurt. Even if the kid is lying, you still got to listen to them, because what are the chances that they're not lying? Like, pretty good. And he just kind of made fun of this kid and kind of like was speaking really condescending to him. And I could tell the kid was not amused at all by how the coach was talking to him. And so this coach said, "All right, we'll go ahead and go sit down and, get back in when you feel like it." So the kid walks away and he goes, "All right, sports psych, how'd I handle that?" And I was like, "You're a jerk." Like, that was terrible. The kid's going to quit. He's never going to trust you again. Like, you've lost him. So if he stays on the team, you're going to have a lot of problems with him because he's not going to trust you. And he's a sophomore. And so you've just lost somebody for the next couple of years. And he kind of laughed it off or whatever. But I later on in practice saw that other coaches were talking to the kids like that. Because of all the stuff that's going on with just in the world of Black Lives Matters and George Floyd and all this stuff, I've been watching a lot of movies that can just kind of remind me kind of my place and what I can do to help. And I was watching Remember the Titans a couple of days ago. And there's this one scene where one of the linebackers says, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." And that is what happened with that football coach, that his attitude reflected the leadership of the coaches. And that's why the kids were quitting, because the head coach sets the tone. Just like you, if you're a head coach on here or you're somebody with some authority within your organization or sport, then you know that what the way you treat people will be mirrored by the assistants. It's just how it is. And so you have to be intentional about how you treat people, so that way other people can see by your example that that's how, that in this organization, that's how we treat people. Now, the next one is trust is established through authenticity. And being authentic is be a little weird. Like, be okay with the kids knowing that you're more than just interested in their 40 time or how much they can lift or what they can do on the soccer field or, off the diving board. I had this friend of mine named Craig. He runs a podcast called Winning Youth Sports. And he was asked to coach lacrosse. He'd never played lacrosse before, but he dropped his son off at tryouts and they go, "Hey, will you coach?" And he's like, "No, I'm good. I've never done it." They're like, "Hey, we just need a warm body. Like, please be a coach." He was like, "All right, I'll do it." So then he told me he went home and just watched a ton of YouTube videos and like bought books and went to the library and all these videos and stuff. And he was really struggling for the first couple of weeks because he was pretending to be this really good lacrosse coach. And then he told me one day that he went to practice and he just said, "Hey, listen up, guys. I don't know what I'm doing. I know I'm your head coach, but these are 12-year-olds. I need you to understand that I'm doing this because there was nobody else. So my commitment to you is that I'm going to do the best job I can. I'm going to watch videos and I'm going to get drills, but I also want your help. And so just know that I'm doing the best I can." He said after he said that, it was like the entire team changed. And it was an understanding of like, okay, let's do this together. That coach was authentic. He wasn't trying to pretend, oh, I know everything and I'm going to do it. No, he was just like, hey, this is who I am. But that also reminds me that when there was this one time I was at a sports academy and I knew that I had 11-year-old tennis players in my next leadership class. And I had not problems, but I had challenges relating to them. I had never played tennis before, and they just was like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I knew who the ringleader was, right? Like there's a ringleader in every group. And I made sure that he saw me with my phone in the weight room. And Justin, you know, by the weights, right? The dumbbells, I was over here like this. And I like made noise. So he saw me and he's like, "Oh, coach, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh man, there's a Pokemon over by the dumbbells." He's like, "What?" So he runs over and he pulls out his phone and we sit here and we start trying to catch Pokemon together. So then he was like, "Coach, I didn't know you did that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's a lot of fun." He didn't know that I just downloaded it 10 minutes before. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like throwing these little Pokemon balls. Well, 20, 30 minutes later, I go up to class and he's told the entire class that coach does Pokemon. And I had immediate credibility. And I was able to get him after that. And then there's other times where like I read Harry Potter. I don't care about a wizard, some orphaned wizard, but my kids were reading him. And like the Hunger Games, same thing. My kids were reading Hunger Games. So I read these things so that way I can relate to them in a different way. It's just me kind of being like authentic to me, to, who I am and what I want to do. Now, authenticity is reinforced by ownership. And there's two ways to create ownership. Number one, admit mistakes, right? Like there was this one time I forgot my watch at practice and I was coaching 11-year-old girls basketball. And I kept on pulling my phone out to look and put it back. And then I'd check it out again. I'd pull it back. And my point guard, her name was Tasha. She was like, "Coach, stop looking at your phone." And I was like, first I'm defensive. I'm like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" "No, I'm keeping timer on here." But she doesn't know that my phone's on airplane mode. She just knows that her coach keeps looking at her phone, which communicates to her that I'm not really present, even though I was using it to stay present. But it's all about perception. So I was like, in the moment, I caught myself. I was like, "Tasha, you're right." And I walked over to the parent and I gave him my phone. I was like, "Can you tell me when it's 15 past?" Because I wanted to stay on time. And I go, "Okay." And then we went in it. And, after practice, she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, coach, I appreciate that I was able to say that to you." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" She was like, "I was really scared because my coach before me, if I ever said something like that, and he would have yelled at me." And so I was like, "All right, cool. Doing all right." That was like when I first started coaching. So I was like, I was pretty excited that I was able to catch myself and not be a jerk in that moment. Right. But the second way, and the reason why that gave ownership to the team is because they were able to keep the coach accountable. The second way is you let them create stuff. You let them create, whether it's a drill or maybe something during practice or plan like a party or something. And what happens when you do that is they have more buy-in to the experience. They want to be around more. And so there was this, long story short, I had this kid on my football team who was kind of a troublemaker. And I asked him to create a drill for us. And the next day he had practiced it. He had it all worked out and he explained the drill, and all the kids were like, all of his teammates were proud of him and excited for him. And that kind of switched his mindset to wanting to be a better teammate and just kind of be able to kind of be a part of the team. And years later, I still ran that drill because it was so good. All right, let's see. Last, I think this is the last one. Yeah. So the ownership creates credibility. When it comes to credibility, 3 ways. The first one is you did it. You got the medal. You got the trophy. You were the state champion. You were the national champion. You were the Olympian. When you have accomplished something like that, it's immediate credibility. But not everybody can do that. And you and I both know coaches that were not very good in the sport or never played the sport who are phenomenal coaches, because being a great athlete in a sport does not make you a great coach. It can help, but you got to be intentional about switching off, taking off that athlete hat, putting on that coach hat. Number 2, you've helped others do it. So you have a history of teaching other kids and other athletes how to achieve this goal, whether it's a strength goal or a championship or a bunch of wins or whatever. And that kind of follows you. So wherever you go, you're like, oh, this coach has really helped me win. Number 3. Now this one's available to everybody, because not everybody can be the national champion. Not everybody can be the Olympian or the former Major League Baseball player. And not everybody can be a nationally or internationally known coach, a critically acclaimed coach. Like, not everybody can do that. It's not attainable for everybody. Number 3, though, is attainable for everyone. Number 3 is the way you create credibility is by being interested in your athletes. And I learned this not in sport, but actually I was sitting at a coffee shop, and there was a group, there was a guy and a girl sitting there, and they were on a first date. And I knew they were on a first date because it was just that awkward tension or whatever. Anyways, long story short, it was not going well. And I was in the restroom and he walked in, and I was like, hey man, are you on a first date? And he goes, yeah. I go, how do you think it's going? He's like, okay. I go, no, dude, it's not going good. I mean, I'm sitting right next to you guys, and all I do is hear you talk. Like, you haven't asked her any questions. And he was like, oh man, I haven't. You're right. So I was like, look, I know, like, you don't want my advice. He goes, no, I do. What should I do? And I go, look, she said yes to you because you are interesting, right? I've heard your stories, so you're interesting. She's going to say yes again because you're interested in her. He's like, oh yeah. All right. So then he goes and sits down. I went and sat down. First thing he comes out, he says, I've been talking a lot. So sorry. I want to learn more about you. And, and he started asking her questions. You can see her, like, she was going from here to like, oh, okay. All right, let's do this. And so if you apply that to your athletes, you can create credibility just by being interested in what's going on in their world, instead of just coach, strategy, tactics, techniques. You can be like, hey, how's school going? How was your experience during the pandemic? What were the good and the bad things about it? Are you good? Like, what did you exercise? Like, just asking them about stuff, and then also sharing in the things that, maybe that you didn't, that weren't fun for you as a coach. And kids love that kind of stuff, and it makes you more human. And when you are more human, these kids, I'm telling you, they'll do anything for you because they know you're not just a transactional coach. All right. So, and then credibility, of course, grows influence. And they're only with us as athletes for a few moments, a season, maybe 2. And so you got to be really intentional about what you want to pass on to these athletes, and know that they're always, always watching you. All right. So that is the circle of influence. And I want you to now pull out these questions. Let me get this going. I don't need this. Let's see. Yep. All right. Share screen. Is that the one? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. All right. So first question. Now I'm gonna fly through these because I want you to write down immediately the first thing that you thought of. All right. And so when it comes to when we come back and the kids see us, they've been gone for 4 or 5 months, And so they're going to be completely different. They're going to be taller. They're going to be smarter. They're going to have all these experiences to share. And they're not going to remember really what it is to be a part of your organization. That is why it's important to be very intentional about how you come back as a coach, how you come back as an organization. So I want you to ask yourself, why does your organization exist? Or why does your team exist? Like, what is the point, right? Whatever you think of, I want you to just write that down. Why does your organization exist? Even if it sounds grandiose, if it sounds as a big thing, like whatever, just write it down. Next, what are we teaching? I'm a big fan of John. A lot of Johns in my life. John Wooden. It's like John Gordon, John O'Sullivan. I'm a big fan of John Wooden. And he was all about, I'm not a coach, I'm a teacher. I'm always teaching. And I'm teaching life through the sport of basketball. And so what is it that you're teaching? Yes, you are teaching skills, technique, you're teaching strategy, but at the end of your time with them, they're going to remember not all that stuff. They're going to remember who you were. And there's this poem that I'm blanking on it right now. And on all the books on all the shelves. Okay. I can't remember the first part of it, but it's the John Wooden poem. Gosh, I wish I could remember it. That'd be really impressive right now. Anyways, the second part of it, it matters not. Nope, that's a different poem. Anyways, it's a really cool poem, and I'll put it in the follow-up email for us. Let's see, the next one. How do we define winning? Now, when I say winning, I want you to also think about success, because winning is a score on the scoreboard. It's a number on the scoreboard. But we all know times where we have won, but we shouldn't have, because the other team was superior and they just played a bad game. Well, yes, we won, but were we successful? And so you could definitely change. Yeah, that's exactly right, Anthony. They don't remember that, the Maya Angelou quote. They don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. It's exactly right. So how do you define winning? I was a football coach for a 6th grade football team in San Luis Obispo, and we went defeated. We lost 10 out of 10 games. And halfway through the season, I leveled with them. I said, look, we're probably not going to win a game, because you all know that every team we face is bigger than us, height and weight. We were put in the wrong league, but it's too late for us to change. They're not going to change. So, and I told them, I said, look, I want to be optimistic, but I also want to change our definition of success. And so I challenge all of you to take the next day or two to think about, what does success mean to you? And then I want you to tell me. So over the next 2 days, these kids would come back, and like my center, she was, Chris, thank you. No written word nor spoken plea can teach the kids what they should be, nor all the books on all the shelves. It's what the coaches are themselves. See, I just needed the first 2 words and I was good to go. Thank you, Chris P. I appreciate you so much. All right. But then my center came, and she was a long snapper, and she was like, no fumbles. If the quarterback doesn't fumble my snap, it was a success. So after the game, I was able to ask her, I was able to say, hey, how was your game? Were you successful? We didn't win, but she would say, yes, there were no fumbles, or, there was one bad snap and it was during this. And I was like, okay, cool. I had a receiver. It was like, never be more than 2 yards away from, or a cornerback, never be 2 yards away from my receiver. And at the end of the season, when we went 0-10, I remember being at the banquet, and I said, anybody who wants to play next year, raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. They all stood up, and then they raised their hand. And of course, I'm emotional, so I'm just crying. And I was like, oh, I love you guys. It was so great. The next year, they dominated. They were in the same league. They were a year older. They went 10-0. I have to believe that it was because they went through the adversity and were able to overcome that. And that was like this burning fire inside them. So also the next one, how do we define losing? Like, what does it mean to lose? I like the idea of when you don't put in a full effort, like you can't really say that you won. Like maybe you lost that game. The score is on the board and it's objective and you won or you lost. But like I said before, as coaches, we are purveyors of meaning. We help kids to understand wins and losses and what that means in our journey growing up. And you're a storyteller. That's what you are. You're a storyteller. Next, what are the characteristics of the ideal player? Now, this could be very easy if you only coach maybe tennis or golf, where there's not other positions to be thinking about. But if you're the head coach, if you run the organization, really sit down and define, here are the characteristics. Now, you can talk about physical characteristics. That's not really what I'm talking about. It's demeanor. My friend Kip is on the call right now. And Kip, can you put your website in the chat? She's really good at this. She really works on the mental side and like what kind of mental state you need to be in order to be successful. So thank you, Kip. So check that out. It's really cool. But the characteristics of an ideal player, it's really important to know like what you're looking for instead of just winging it every season, being like, I hope we got this. But when you can really look for the right players for each position. The science of the intangibles. You're awesome, Kip. Now, because of COVID-19, a lot of people lost their jobs, which means a lot of coaches lost their jobs, which is terrible. The positive thing is you now can rehire people or not rehire certain people. If you've coached long enough, you've been around that one coach that's been there for a long time and is disagreeable and not easy to get along with and is part of the old ways and doesn't want to evolve or get better. And you now might have the opportunity to replace them with someone who is more like-minded for what you want to be doing. So quality people, Les Brown. That's a good one, Kip. You're on fire today, bud. So write down the character. If you're the assistant coach, write down the characteristics that you look for in a head coach. If you're the head coach, write down the things that you're looking for in an assistant coach. And be intentional about these. Some of the greatest duos, coaching duos in any sports are ones that aren't the same. They actually complement each other. And when I'm looking for an assistant coach or somebody to co-lead a team with me, I don't need a big thought person, someone who is a visionary, someone who's throwing out ideas all the time. I don't need that because I know that's my strength. What I need is someone who's going to bring me back to reality and be like, no, we can't throw the ball deep every single play. And no, we can't do it. Like I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And so when I first went through this, I wrote down exactly the opposites of what I was looking for, because I knew what I was good at. So I didn't need someone else to also be good at that. Now, when it comes to a parent, if you have not spent time writing down the characteristics of that and the expectations that you want from your parents, you're doing yourself a disservice, because we teach the kids what we expect, but we don't teach the parents what we expect. And if we don't teach the parents how to act on the sideline, act in the stands, then we can't really be surprised when they just come with whatever behavior that they're going to come with. And so write down, here are the expectations that we have for the parents. And I would highly, highly recommend that you share that with the parents. Now, there's a podcast coming out today by Way of Champions, the Changing the Game Project, podcast number 172. And my friend Sky Eddie Bruce is on there with another friend, Seth, and they're talking about how to talk to parents. And so if you don't know of the Way of Champions podcast, this week's episode. It's going to be really good, specifically about parents. The next question is, if the organization could accomplish one thing, what would it accomplish? My favorite answer would be productive citizens, productive adults, problem solvers, right? Has nothing to do with sport and everything to do with using sport as a vehicle to be better in life. So think about that. If the organization could accomplish one thing, what would it be? And then also, what do we want for our children? What kind of experience do we want for them? How do we want to see them be in our organization? Now, these questions are just to spark ideas, just to kind of get the thoughts going about how you want to come back as a coach. Because these kids, they missed their spring semester here in America, and they're coming back in the fall. And what I've been telling them is you can come back as whoever you want to be, because it's been so long since you've been at school that if you were the bully, maybe you're not the bully now. If you were the person who doesn't work hard, maybe you come back and you are the person that comes back and works hard, right? So you can come back, and these kids can come back, and even little things, right? Like when you signed on today, there was music playing. That changes a Zoom conference, right? Like you get in, all of a sudden it's Eye of the Tiger. Like, okay, I'm pumped up. You didn't see this, but I had the camera off and I was over here dancing, because that's how I prepare for presentations. If you've ever hired me to come out to your school, I'm backstage and I'm dancing. I'm just moving around because this is game day for me. All right, last one. How do we have fun? Please, coach, please have fun. Make sure that there's an element of fun, because in study after study, these kids, what they're saying is they play sports because it's fun. And fun doesn't mean, always messing around all the time. There's time and a place, and I've got a bunch of team building activities that on my site that you can use to create fun, 3-4 minutes out of practice. Good to go. So those are all the questions. Now for the last page here, it's pretty self-explanatory, and it's Sunday night, and I don't want to take any more of your time. And so I want you to read through it. The overview is you have cultural architects and you have cultural assassins. Architects are people that help you build those culture. They're the people who are all about what I can give the organization. And then you have cultural assassins. These are people that are trying to take away from and it's not always athletes. It could be coaches and administrators too. But, when it comes to the day-to-day stuff, these cultural assassins on your team, they're all about what they can get. I want this. They're always taking stuff. So go through there. And my challenge to you is to identify your cultural architects and your cultural assassins. All right. And just know that you're going to have most people kind of in the middle, and be focusing on those people to bring them into the cultural architects. Well, thank you. Okay. Time for the sales part of the presentation, because this was free and I got to make money. So I got a couple different things for you. The inner game for coaches. I've been doing one with athletes, and it's on Wednesday nights, and it's been amazing. So it's been a live situation. The one with coaches, I'm basically going to just pull the curtain back. And so on your handout, there's the link right there. You can just press on that. The cultural architect. Yeah, Jess, there you go. Right there, cultural architects. It's in the notes. And if you don't have the notes, Jess, check out your email and it's in there. Back to the sales presentation. There's also, I'm doing digital summits. So I'm doing 4 to 6 week, 1 hour a week digital summits, because now kids are used to doing these Zoom conferences. And so you can hire me to do one specifically for your school. I've got a couple slots left, but they're filling up really fast. Also, the 2 things on the bottom, this is just curriculum, right? So if you want some team building ideas, or if you want to be able to teach mental resiliency, check those out. And don't buy them just yet, because in the email that I'm going to send you, there'll be a discount code, because you're awesome. Okay, that's it. So I'm transitioning off of social media. So if you want to be part of the UTA community, then that is the phone number that you can text, because I'm just over social media. But thank you so much for coming and being here with me today. It is a complete honor to have so many people and so many of my friends on here. It blows me away. I'm going to have to go and get something to eat or something because I'm fired up right now. So thank you, everybody. Please say hello in the chat and goodbye. And I'm just so honored that you were here. So thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. All right, put the glasses on so I can read who's saying hello. All right, Chad. Bye, Kazoo. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rochelle. Let's see, Josh. Bye, Michelle. Oh, Michelle Smith. Hey, you're awesome. Lisa, take care. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Julio. Kip, thank you. I appreciate that. I have it in my emails up at the top because it's one of the oldest emails that I haven't done anything with, but thank you. You're welcome, Coach C. Patrick, thank you. Bye, Ben. Bye, Freddie. Yes, Freddie, definitely. I would love that. I want to go back to Medellin. That was a fantastic trip. I was only there for 24 hours. It was terrible. Thank you, Mark. I love you, buddy. Bye, Maureen. Thank you so much. All right, signing off. If you guys need anything, just respond to the email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have a wonderful day and just know that these kids need you and they love you and you are the best part of sports. Take care, everybody.